participate in this great work, whether you're 105 or 5 years of age. And I just wanted to leave you on that powerful message from Our Lady. May God richly bless you, and I hope to have you come back. Same time, same Christ station. And thanks again for listening to Virgin Most Powerful Radio, the Bishop Strickland Hour. Pass it on to your friends. God love you and your family.
Saint Faustina's Prayer for Priests. O my Jesus, I beg thee on behalf of the whole Church, grant it love and the light of thy Spirit, and give power to the words of priests, so that hardened hearts might be brought to repentance and return to thee, O Lord. Lord, give us holy priests. Thou thyself maintain them in holiness. O divine and great High Priest, may the power of thy mercy accompany them everywhere, and protect them from the devil's traps and snares, which are continually being set for the souls of priests. May the power of thy mercy, O Lord, shatter and bring to naught all that might tarnish the sanctity of priests. For thou canst do all things. Amen. Virgin most powerful, pray for us.
Are you an adult looking to receive the sacrament of confirmation? If you are over the age of 18, baptized, have received First Communion, and have not celebrated the sacrament of confirmation and wish to do so, please join St. Joseph Catholic Church in Richardson for their adult confirmation classes on Friday nights from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. in room 123 at the parish. Confirmation will be celebrated at the Saturday Vigil Mass on the Vigil of Christ the King on November 19th at 5 p.m. To register, call 972-231-2951.
Hello, my name is Liz Mertz. My husband Bill and I own MasterTech Auto Repair in Plano. We are proud sponsors of Catholic Radio. Our family has been parishioners of St. Gabriel's and McKinney for many years. MasterTech is a full-service auto repair for all vehicles, from oil changes to complete engine replacement or transmission service. We are located just across the street from St. Mark's Parish in Plano. You can contact us at 972-578-1841 or www.mastertechplano.com. Thank you, and may you have a blessed day.
Everyone said it was okay.
I had a life.
They said it was a choice.
I had a career.
But I didn't really feel like I had a choice.
I was looking outside for answers.
I didn't want to mess up all my plans.
I went on remote control.
Are you suffering from a past abortion? If you are, you may feel alone, but you're not. There are people who understand and can help. Call 214-544-CARE.
They said it was easy.
Why am I still hurting?
Not one single day is easy for me.
Don't suffer alone. Call 214-544-CARE or go to racheldallas.org. Don't worry, it's all confidential.
Welcome to Back to the Father, a show about the journey of life focused on our final end, which is God Himself, our loving Father. And now, here's your host, Dave Palmer.
And welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Back to the Father here on the Guadalupe Radio Network, social media sites of YouTube, Facebook, and the new Elon Musk-owned Twitter. I don't know if that's going to make much of a difference. We don't tend to have many followers on Twitter, but it's a new day for Twitter, so maybe that'll make a difference today. We're glad you're with us, and if you're new to the program, this is a program we do once a week, always at 1 o'clock until 2 o'clock Central Time on Fridays. where we focus on some particular teaching of St. Thomas Aquinas and his Summa Theologia. And this is something that I've had a great passion and love for many years. I've been teaching it to teenagers, high school students for about 10 years through Homeschool Connections. I wrote a couple of books on it, and I'm really happy that I am surrounded by some wonderful people that join me every week here in studio, and also you out there in social media land to talk about a particular topic. Today's topic I'll tell you about in just a second, but first let me introduce Hatless Sissel Anderson.
Okay, there's a story.
Oh, there always is. Okay.
I always have an excuse. So, no, I do have
a lovely lady who is raising. Okay.
Yes, exactly. We should just start singing that right now. No, so my story is that I thought, since of our subject matter today, and since we're so close to All Saints Day, I thought I should come dressed as a saint today.
Okay.
And I will say, half of my saint costume is in my car.
All right, not doing much good there.
However, the hat portion, I was going to be a sister, or I was going to be St. Margaret Mary Alaquite, because that's who I was earlier for my church's trunk or treat. The veil kind of fell apart. And I kind of thought it would be weird if I showed up without the veil.
Yeah.
It wouldn't do much good. So, yeah, that's why I have a deer stalker instead.
All right. A deer stalker. Okay. So that's not part of the saint's costume.
I don't know. Is there a saint that wore a deer stalker?
Is this called a deer stalker?
To my understanding from Sherlock Holmes, yes.
Like a deer is in an animal deer? DEER?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you stalk deers with that. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I do on my...
Not at all, no.
Never?
Okay.
Nope.
See, Sherlock Holmes wears it.
Okay. All right. If it's good enough for him.
It's good enough for him. I really don't think it's a good look, though.
He's strictly a fictional character, though, right?
He is strictly a fictional. But he's the most portrayed fictional character in radio, film, and television.
Most ever? Really? Mm-hmm. Interesting. I'm trying to think who might compete for that.
That would be Jesus, but I'm pretty sure he's not fictional.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I say. That's why.
I think you almost fell into heresy. Almost. But I think I pulled you out of the heresy pond.
So basically, I have a hat, just not going to wear it the whole show.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that story.
You're welcome.
And across from me is William Kirkendall. He's a high school student, intern, very bright, and he joins us every week on the program. And he has made his way onto our little... what do you call it? A tag?
Our splash.
Our splash.
Our thumbnail kind of thing.
Right. And so, but anyways, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Dave. How are you?
Is it first week with your haircut, or did you have it last?
I got it on Monday, but it's the first week on this show.
All right. So newly haircutted William, and Diane is on the other side of the glass. We don't get many phone calls, but if you do want to call in and be part of the show audibly, you can call 877-757-9424. And let's talk about the topic. You know what the topic is, right?
Yes,
you saw that. Okay. Last week, we talked about ghosts, or as St. Thomas Aquinas would say, separated souls. And as we're leading up to Halloween and, of course, All Hallows Eve and All Saints Day and All Souls Day, I thought that would be pretty typical because I know if I look out the front of my house, and I'll show you the first graphic here, which I showed last week, you see creepy stuff. I see ghosts and skeletons. Have you heard about that craze about the big 12-foot skeleton that Home Depot is selling?
I've seen it. It's in my friend's neighborhood.
Yeah, those are like all the rage right
crazy.
now.
What I thought of was if it fell down and you got hurt by it, how to explain that to the doctor.
Yeah, my next door neighbor has two of them.
He has two of them?
Yeah,
Does it have the ones with like the eyes that glow at night?
Yeah, well, they've got one that has a pumpkin head and then one. But have you seen them, William?
I have not. No.
So they're big skeletons, and they're sold by Home Depot. And I talked to my neighbors. I said, I've never seen such a big skeleton. And they said they had to order them in April because there was such a backlog. Wow. And USA Today had a big story about across the country. Everybody's trying to get these big 12-foot skeletons. So anyways, that's what we talked about last week is the fascination with ghosts and ghouls and witches and all this stuff on Halloween. And I thought, well, let's talk this week about the intercession of the saints, which is really what, All Saints Day is all about, is the intercession of the saints. And, at least being cognizant of the fact that there are saints in heaven that are very more than willing to assist us if we'll just, call out to their help. And I want to kind of throw out a question because I personally believe, Halloween doesn't bother me that much. I think we need to focus on death. We need to focus on our mortality. And if there's creepy stuff out there, it doesn't bother me that much. I'm going to die one day, and I probably ought to be reminded. I know this guy like Steve Ray has a skull on his desk to remind him of his mortality. So creepy
My sister
stuff.
has a sticker on her I think it's like Memento Mori. Yeah.
Memento Mori. Yeah. Remember your death, right? Yeah. So as long as, Halloween's okay as long as we equally or more so focus on All Saints Day and All Souls Day. Go to Walmart, go to Kroger, and go down the aisle, the seasonal aisle, and tell me how many saints you see, and how many ghosts and goblins and ghoulish figures and pumpkins and. And again, I'm not casting aspersions on all the people that like to do that. Some people like dress up and all that kind of stuff. But I guess the question is why is that? How did it get to be that way? Yeah. And I'd love to get people's opinion on that. I have my own theory, but you want to chime in? Why is there such an obsession about Halloween and really nothing about All Saints Day?
I think basically it just comes down to people have just lost their way, I guess you could say. They are when you take God out of the picture and when you lose all that, you're kind of opening yourself up to things of this world that aren't so great, and that's what we're seeing a lot now. Now, on the opposite side of that, I think it's really interesting because yesterday we have Mass at our co-op at noon, so we have a couple sessions of classes before Mass, and then the rest of the day classes after Mass. And Father gave a sermon yesterday. He's one of our really good sermonists and always gives great homilies. And yesterday he said we celebrate in the traditional form of the Mass. We celebrate the feast of Christ the King on Sunday, and then Halloween, and then All Saints Day and All Souls Day. And he was giving a sermon on that basically to the kids, and he was saying, Halloween is not in and of itself a bad thing. It literally is just the translation of All Hallows Eve. He's like, it doesn't make sense to make it bad, to make it evil, because we literally just celebrated the feast of Christ the King, and we're celebrating All Saints yesterday. And he said, I don't see anything wrong with, dressing up as Superman. Superman's good. Like, those kind of things, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like, don't go dress up like the devil or something. Not that, but like superhero figures, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with dressing up as saints. He encourages us to go, Father encouraged us to go do that. He said, there's really nothing wrong with Halloween, All Hallows Eve. You just need to just make sure you're focusing on the good. Like, God has triumphed over evil, and evil can't overtake it in between these two great feasts.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I think it's interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad he mentioned that.
Yeah.
I have another comparison. It's like, I know I'm the only married person among the crew here with Back to the Father, but, you have a rehearsal dinner the night before a wedding generally.
Yes.
Yep.
Imagine having a rehearsal dinner, that's probably not a good, because but the rehearsal dinner is a dinner
I want to know where this is going.
that ties into the fact that you're rehearsing for something. Halloween isn't a rehearsal, but Halloween is connected to All Saints Day.
Exactly.
And if you take away All Saints Day, it's kind of like taking away the wedding. You're
Well, it's like taking away Christmas Day from Christmas Eve.
Yeah, right. Or New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
Exactly.
Everybody focuses on New Year's Eve and very little on New Year's Day. But anyway, so why is that? And I was on CDT this morning, and I didn't have any big blunders like I did last week. Last week was not my best moment, but I think I carried myself okay this morning. But I always appreciate Rudy and Joe's out this week, but Rudy and Adrian. And I don't know, I think that there's almost this sense of like this overemphasis on equality in our culture that we can't realize that like the saints are in a really elevated place.
Right.
And we can't get to our destination on our own. We got to have God's help, and God will certainly help us. But God has created a framework where, and I'll kind of get to this, where Thomas talks about where we're helped through the saints. Okay, that's kind of the way he laid it out. It's just not me and Jesus. He wants us to, ask for the saints' assistance. But I think a lot of people are just like, that's okay. I think I'm good. It's all good.
Interesting.
I don't know. That's my theory. It's like, I'm gonna pray to God, and I'm gonna try to be a good person and not fall into mortal sin, and then I think that's gonna get me there. I don't know.
Yeah. I like both of those. Those are they're different, but I like both of them. I was gonna say something along the lines of why is that All Saints isn't marketable the way that Halloween is.
Yeah, true. But like saints outfits or
But the thing is that do that, kind of going to William's point, you have to be a Christian culture that accepts the idea of saints.
Mm-hmm.
And we're and especially in a lot of parts of America, it's a pretty Protestant country.
Yeah.
So
or secular, Protestant secular.
Yeah. Well, and so
but everybody knows there's death. Everybody knows there's
everyone knows there's
skeletons.
death, but the average, like the average kid who is not Catholic is not going to have much of an idea of what a saint is or who they are.
Yeah.
They might have heard of a few of the big saints, but not even connecting that they are saints. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think if you don't grow up with that, like when I was a kid, when I was Protestant, dressing like a saint would never have crossed my mind. You know what I mean? That wouldn't have been the thought. So that's my thinking.
Yeah, I think that's a lot like what people are thinking today. Like they probably just don't know about the saints. Like Protestants generally don't believe in saints. Secularists usually don't believe in saints. So it's like they're never gonna be able to think about that or comprehend it.
I feel like if some of the marketing, like some of these like Halloween costume companies realize how some of these saints were quite martyred quite brutally, and so some of the costumes could be pretty gruesome, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure.
I think they might maybe have gotten on that.
I told you about the time my daughter went to St. Lucie.
It had her eyeballs on the plate.
Had her eyeballs on a plate, and nobody said, why do you have eyeballs on the plate?
I love passing out candy at trunk or treat at my church, and there's a kid going by wearing a grill around his neck because he's St. Lawrence, you know?
Yeah, these are great stories.
You're like,
Now, I'll tell you something else that kind of chaps me a little bit is that if you went on a Google search or whatever a platform you use to do searches and put in the word saints, do you realize that? And you can
I'm doing it
back
now.
me up in this. The first like 20 websites are going to be about the New Orleans Saints football team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, and isn't that crazy? The other day, I typed in St. Thomas Aquinas because I wanted to, do a little research on him. Okay, believe it or not.
What?
And do you know what pops up is St. Thomas Aquinas high school football team has a 12-4 record of. I mean, seriously, and it's St. Thomas Aquinas. It's all about like football teams.
Yeah.
that are named after St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah.
And I'm like.
What about the man, the myth, the legend?
I know. You've got to go pretty far down to find anything about the.
I know. Yeah.
Believe me, if you do.
Well, that's because it goes by relevance.
Exactly.
And
what people are looking for.
What people are looking for. Yeah, and what's current.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, not enough people are having discussions about St. Thomas Aquinas, which is what we're doing with this show. So we are changing the tide.
That's
7
right.
viewers at a time. 8 viewers, excuse me.
8 viewers at a time. Right. Okay. So
And they probably all just
I know
left now.
we've got a couple of comments. Anything of interest
Yeah,
there?
so Victor had commented when I asked about like why do we focus more on Halloween and not All Saints, and he's like, we can worry about death because we can worry about death later. Just kidding. And then he also said when you were talking about the homily that you heard at Modern Day, he said Father Rock from Houston, FSSP, said something similar on CDT a few days ago as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah, and I kind of agree with your priest because.
oh, also sorry, I forgot. Monica says Happy Friday.
Oh, okay. Hey, Monica, happy Friday to you. And, if you just curse the darkness, and because people are so wrapped up in this, and they can take it too far. And if it just gets like downright evil,
Yeah, absolutely.
then you got to draw the line.
Like,
But
to the point where people are dressing up like Satan or how they envision
Or
him or
you
whatever.
can bring into Satan. You can bring in so many other weird rituals with
Yeah.
Halloween too.
Yes,
People, I'm sure
exactly.
Ouija boards are all pulled
Oh,
out
yeah.
and things
Oh,
like
oh,
that.
Yeah. But
Absolutely.
it kind of leads there, though.
It does,
I mean,
it does.
'cause when you
If you-
get, when you
That's-
get
that's the problem with
when
the
you get
demons,
When
yeah.
you get into darkness, and
Yeah.
so that's kind of the thing. Where do you draw the line? So,
Mm-hmm.
all right. So we're going to talk about the saints today because we're going to laser focus on what we celebrate. I think it's Tuesday, right? Or
This year it's Tuesday,
It's
yes.
Tuesday is All Saints Day.
Yes, it is.
And the next little graphic I have here is a calendar. Okay, so this is kind of leading up to the whole month of November is dedicated to praying for the dead. And I wrote, I did a little research on this. Do you know why November is the month that we pray for the dead? Just take a wild guess. You're probably not going to get it.
I mean,
Wow, he
because
just insulted our intelligence.
No, because I didn't know, and
well, isn't it just because All Souls Day falls on November 2nd? And it's when we
or does
pray
All
for the dead?
Souls Day fall? I mean, there's
Which
no,
came first?
Yeah, right. There's no
November-
the chicken or the egg. There's
Yeah.
no reason why All Saints Day has to be on November 1st. I don't think there's any significance.
Okay.
I think, and I may be wrong, but I think it was those 2 days were put in the month of November rather than the month of November.
Oh, okay. So
Victor
you're saying
says because of a pope. Which is probably pretty accurate.
That's pretty safe.
Yeah, the church just put them together.
What I did, of course, I did one little, search on the internet.
So
and this
basically
came up.
not fact.
This makes sense. Right, no, when I tell you what it is, I think you're going to say it makes sense, right? November marks the end of the calendar year. Right?
Yes.
Because Advent is typically in beginning of December, right?
So it's the ending of things.
It's the end of the calendar year. I mean, of the liturgical year.
That
and
makes
so
sense.
they figure, well, why not go ahead and focus on, the past, those who have died, and all that. So my guess would be that they said, okay, November is going to be this month, and we'll go ahead and make All Saints Day the 1st and All Souls Day the 2nd. And then somebody came up and said, hey, how about the day before All Saints Day, we do All Hallows Eve, and we all dress up like ghouls and goblins and go out and get candy. So, all right. So the next thing here is just a couple of pictures. Do you know which saint that is on the right?
Give me a second. I don't have the picture.
Okay.
So let me.
Hard to do it.
Hard to do.
I've always wanted to carve cool pumpkins like this one here. My pumpkins are always so lame.
Really, really funny. But I saw this hack where somebody put like food that squirrels would like, kind of like stuck it in their pumpkin where they would like their design to be done, and then the squirrels kind of ate out the holes. I was like, that's the best lazy hack.
Okay?
Yeah, I mean, it looks gruesome.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Okay, is that? Oh, maybe I shouldn't have waited. Maybe we should have just said, because honestly, that saint looks so familiar. Do you know who it is, John?
Yeah, I think so.
Who?
I hope so. St. Nicholas.
It is.
It's St. Nicholas.
That's what I thought.
He's the one. He's the one that clocked Arius, right?
Yes, he is. He did. He punched him.
You know that story?
I
St.
don't.
Nicholas punched a heretic.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, it was at the one
it's
of the
bird
councils.
food on the pumpkin. Yeah, that's what Victor's saying.
Okay, so you put bird food, and then the
they
squirrels
peck it.
come in. Yeah, I think pumpkins are cool, and I don't know why pumpkins are used for Halloween or whatever. But at any rate, okay, let's get into some of the teaching of St. Thomas Aquinas.
Real quick, we have another comment from an earlier question we asked.
Okay.
So about like why do we focus more on Halloween and not All Saints? And it says saints are number. This is from Manny on Facebook.
Our Manny, okay.
How do you know? It could be a different Manny.
No, I think it's our Manny.
Saints are 1. Some suffering souls are number 2. Suffering souls are working towards the number 1 spot. That's kind of what he's thinking.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. So in the Summa Theologia, there are 2 principal areas where St. Thomas Aquinas talks about the saints and praying to the saints. The first one comes in Secunda Secundae, which is the second part of the Summa, where Thomas is breaking down the theological virtues and the cardinal virtues. And under the cardinal virtue of justice, he talks about the justice, because justice is basically what is owed to another person.
Right.
Okay, like my sense of justice means that I need to treat y'all with respect and vice versa, right?
And
That's justice. And buy donuts?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Okay, if that's the stipulation, then I'm failing miserably. I eat donuts that other people bring in. Does that count?
Do. Yeah, you do. There you go.
Yeah, that's how I.
That's something.
I bought donuts for my family this morning, but that didn't benefit you guys at all. All right, so it's under justice, and this, the same sex. Like, there's a virtue called religion. We think of religion as being, just like something, just I practice my religion, but religion's a virtue. It's, what the devotion that we owe to God, and there's adoration. Adrian was asking me this morning on CDT about latria and dulia and hyperdulia. Do you guys know what that is?
Totally.
He kind of put me on the spot, but I did know the answer.
Oh, I'm glad you know the answer.
He's like, Dave.
You wouldn't do that to anyone else. You wouldn't put anyone else on the spot, would you, Dave?
He did this. And here's his question, almost word for word. Okay, he's like, hey, Dave. Could you take about a minute and explain the difference between dulia, hyperdulia, and latria, right? And so it would have been very embarrassing if I didn't know the answer. But
I think that's when you pretend that your connection was lost. And like, you're cutting out. What did you say? And then you exit the Zoom meeting.
Okay, so do you guys know, because it actually does tie into this.
So
do you
Victor seems to know. He says for latria, worship to God alone.
Okay. Latria is what we owe to God alone. It's adoration. It's worship, right?
And he says dulia, veneration to saints.
Dulia is veneration to saints. What about hyperdulia?
Hang on, I'm waiting for his answer to come up.
Okay. And what now was
hyperdulia?
Does Victor listen to CDT? Did he cheat and get my answer already?
Veneration to the Blessed Virgin Mary.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. It's like hyperdulia. Have you never heard of those?
No, I apparently had not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, which is great.
I'm in good
because
company, though.
a lot of people will accuse Catholics of worshiping the saints or worshiping Mary, but you could say, well, actually, we actually have a distinction. And St. Thomas Aquinas says there's dulia, there's hyperdulia.
And protodulia is St. Joseph.
A protodulia?
I don't know if Victor just made that up or that's true.
Really?
But
Okay.
I'm going to trust him on this one.
Yeah, I've never heard of that one. So, anyways, so let's okay. So there's a section on justice, which is one of the cardinal virtues, and that's where this falls in. The praying. So there's actually. When we pray, it's actually an act of justice because we should pray for other people. Of course, it would be unjust if I never prayed for my family or I didn't. We all pray together as we were encouraged by our leadership team to pray as a community, a group every day, and most days we do. Most days.
As I sit here going, how did we get it today?
Not today, but most days after we get off the air.
Yeah, we'll do it.
And so then the other section is at the very, very end of the Summa where he's talking about the resurrection. Okay, and this is where, the saints in heaven and, their intercession for us. Okay, so we'll go through these, and I think there's some interesting points. Thomas actually, at one point, and I'll read what he says about this, recommends we pray to the lesser-known saints.
Yeah, because they're just sitting around waiting for someone to help somebody. Poor St. Anthony. He always comes through, but that poor man.
I know. Everybody. So you're saying he's overused, or
yeah,
what?
I think he probably is. Because how many times? Just yesterday, I lost my phone, and I was like, St. Anthony.
Yeah. Can the other saints not help you find something?
Probably.
I'm sure they could.
You just immediately, your brain goes, do you say anything? You look around.
Except the nice thing about all the saints is that they're all like, they have something that they're the patron of, so you can go to that particular saint, and that's kind of like their specialty.
And Thomas makes that point.
He's go to their specialty.
He's going to give us 5 reasons why we should go to lesser-known saints, which is ironic because he is not a lesser-known saint. Why am I saying snake?
We know why you're saying snake, Dave. It's because you have a snake obsession.
And Rudy asked me this morning on the air. Rudy and Joe and Adrian asked me these crazy off-the-wall questions. I need to start sending them a list of the questions. You can only ask me these questions, okay? It's 7:00 in the morning, for Pete's sake. I mean, I just woke up. I haven't had coffee yet, but he said, Dave, if when you died and you became a saint, what would you think you would be the patron saint of? That's what I said. I said herpetology.
100% snakes.
I said herpetology, yeah.
I have a friend who gave a very specific reason why she would be the patron saint of foot injuries. It was the most hysterical thing. She had thought about this quite a lot. Also, did you know, according to Manny, that the Litany of Saints is used in exorcisms?
Oh, wow.
So very
I didn't know that, but it's not surprising.
And I think that's very important because this is serious stuff. And if the demons are afraid of the mention of saints or the intercession of saints, then it's
powerful.
It's very powerful. Yeah. Okay, so all right. So whether we ought to pray to God alone. Okay, this is an article that falls under the part of the Summa on justice. And Thomas says prayers offered to a person in 2 ways. First, as to be fulfilled by him. Secondly, as to be obtained through him. In the first way, we offer prayer to God alone, since all our prayers ought to be directed to the acquisition of grace and glory, which God alone gives. But in the second way, we pray to the saints, whether angels or men, not that God may through them know our petitions, but that our prayers may be effective through their prayers and merits. Hence it is written, Revelation 8:4, that the smoke of the incense, namely the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God. Are y'all familiar with that verse? That's often the one that's used when talking about the intercession of the saints.
I'm familiar with that verse, but I didn't know it was about the intercession of the saints. I thought, because I started reading Dr. The one who went to Dr. Scott Hahn.
Yeah.
His book called The Lamb's Supper. It's basically his interpretation of the book of Revelation. I think that verse he said was because the whole book's about the Mass and everything. How Revelation is most of it, at least, is about the Mass and the sacrifice. And I think he said because we use incense at Mass, so I feel like that would be maybe what he meant. But I guess it could go for the saints too,
right?
Because I thought it meant like the literal incense we use, but I guess it could be.
Yeah, but this would be incense in heaven, though, right?
Right.
And with so I don't know. I mean, I think it's always been interpreted. Clearly, Aquinas is interpreting it this way, So So Then it says, this is also clear from the very style employed by the church in praying, since we beseech the Blessed Trinity to have mercy on us, but we ask the saints to pray for us. And that's getting back to what Manny said about those litanies, is that we would never say, Saint Joseph, have mercy on me. We'd say, pray for me, right? Okay, so the next one says, whether the saints in heaven pray for us. It's interesting. It says, Jerome says the error of Vigilantius consisted in saying that while we live, we can pray for one another, but that after we are dead, none of our prayers for others can be heard, seeing that not even the martyrs' prayers are granted when they pray for their blood, their blood to be avenged. Okay, so St. Jerome lived early on in Christian history. He was like,
wasn't like 300s?
Yeah, I think so.
Really early on.
So.
Yeah.
So even back then, you had heretics like this Vigilantius who were saying prayer is of no use. So he's saying, okay, so
prayer after death is no use, basically, he's saying.
Yeah, you're right. It's prayer on earth is okay, but then after you die, which to me, that would mean you just don't believe in the saints.
Exactly.
Because what would they be doing up there?
Yeah, like it doesn't add up.
Or you might say, well, the saints are up there. They're in the beatific vision. They're having fun, but they're totally cut off from what's down here below. So you have two spheres, but then that knocks out the communion of the saints, because then there'd be no, interchange or relationship or exchange of prayers. It's just everybody's in their own little realm, right? But this is absolutely false, because since prayers offered for others proceed from charity, the greater the charity of the saints in heaven, the more they pray for wayfarers. That's us. Since the latter can be helped by prayers, and the more closely they are united to God, the more are their prayers efficacious. For the divine order is such that lower beings receive an overflow of the excellence of the higher, even as the air receives the brightness of the sun. I think this is important. So if you have a saint like, think of some saint who was martyred, Saint Sebastian, or is he the one that had all the arrows shot through him?
Yeah, Saint Sebastian.
Yeah, so he builds up this treasury of grace and merit throughout his life. He dies. He didn't have to use it all for himself. The church says that there is a treasury of grace that overflows onto those who need it, right? Like when the Pope offers indulgences.
Right.
Well, that grace, it's almost an interesting thing, because the grace overflows from the merits of principally of Jesus Christ, but also from the saints. And so it's like, your tank of grace is this full, and you only needed this much, and so
you can give the rest to other people.
You can, But I think that's an official teaching of the church, but because we think of grace as just being like unlimited, God just pours out grace, but in this sense, the grace actually was merited,
Well, it's also like
by Jesus.
God gives endless grace, but we're not always open to receiving it either. We're not always in a place to receive it.
Yeah.
But it never stops.
Right.
It's just because, like, when we commit a mortal sin, for instance, where God's grace is still flowing, we're just not open to receiving it anymore.
We're just not getting it.
We've cut off that flow. Okay. Jerome says, if the apostles and martyrs, while yet in the body and having to be solicitous for themselves, can pray for others, how much more now that they have the crown of victory and triumph? And this kind of goes back to the point I made earlier, that the saints are in a really exalted place, and they're in the presence of God, they're in the beatific vision, and we're down here struggling through this life and thinking that we're just going to kind of do it on our own.
Well, it's interesting too, because I feel like we would all say that there are some friends that you have that just, or people in your life who are just very holy, and you definitely are like, I need that person's prayers. You're like, they're a person of prayer, and so you're like, can you pray for me? Because I know you're really, are really working on your spiritual life. And so it's kind of like when you ask the saints, they're like, well, clearly they've gone above and beyond here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And also children too. I often will say to, my 9-year-old son, hey, pray for us. Or, he always prays the rosary with us. I always say, what are your prayer intentions? He always says the exact same prayer intention every single night, that we'll have a good sleep. I mean,
Hey,
100%
that's why you have a good sleep.
I do sleep very well, yeah. All right, next slide. Whether the saints have knowledge of our prayers. Now, this is kind of interesting, because this is probably the deepest slide we're going to have. But, the saints in and of themselves don't have the power to know all the things that are going down on earth, right? They have to get that power, that ability and that power from God.
Yeah, exactly. I think think I said this last week. God they can't like see or hear anything from us, but God gives them special permission to do so, to hear, to see that thing happening down on earth. So it all, I guess that's what St. Thomas talks about here. It all comes from God.
Yeah. So I see there's some comments flowing. Anything that you want to mention?
Yeah,
that anybody has said?
you were talking about, the lesser known saints. And so Victor brought up that he likes to pray to Saint Proclus and Martinian. I almost said Martian, but I was like, that's not right.
Saint Martian.
And so because they're lesser known and they tend to grant people many favors. And I think he said, thinks they're the patron saints of jail guards, but their feast day falls on his birthday. That's why he particularly likes to pray for
You see Mark Lowe's comment?
Yes, Mark Lowe is here, and he said that he heard you on CDT, by the way, and they used the question about the dulia, hyperdulia as one of their game show questions.
Is that right?
So
Okay.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, in the mornings, on Friday mornings, I got to do my little segment and then zip off because I got to bring my son to school at 8, so I didn't hear the game show this morning. But that's pretty cool. I wonder if they already had that planned or if that was, why it was on Adrian's mind.
I guess Adrian wanted to see how closely people were listening to the show before the game show.
Yeah, okay. That makes a lot of sense. All right, so here's what Thomas says. The divine essence is a sufficient medium for knowing all things. And this is evident from the fact that God, by seeing his essence, sees all things. Okay, so God knows everything, without exception. But it does not follow that whoever sees God's essence knows all things, but only those who comprehend the essence of God, even as the knowledge of a principle does not involve the knowledge of all that follows from that principle, unless the whole virtue of the principle be comprehended. Okay. Don't worry about that. Wherefore, since the souls of the saints do not comprehend the divine essence, it does not follow that they know all that can be known in the divine. Okay, so they don't know everything, okay? Because if they did, then they'd be God, right? Okay, hence, since no rectitude is lacking in the saints, they wish to know what concerns themselves. And consequently, it follows that they know it in the Word. Now, it pertains to their glory that they assist the needy for their salvation. Okay, for their glory. Okay, so that's it. They want to do this. For thus they become God's cooperators, that which nothing is more godlike, as Dionysius declares. All right, so what he's saying here is that it's like the saints are up there saying, come on, this is what I'm here for. It's to my glory and what I've merited for, and I want to be God's cooperator. And Dionysius says, and there's nothing that they can do more godlike than help us. Okay, and that's why I go back to the beginning. I think I don't think we've taught this well enough. I think even in Catholic schools or homeschooling is just, and I think that's why the default is just to kind of drop into something more temporal, like the skeletons and the ghouls and the ghosts. And I mean, ghosts are not temporal, but but the things more of the earth, like death, which we all know. But anyways, so wherefore it is evident that the saints are cognizant of such things as are required for this purpose, and so it is manifest that they know in the Word the vows, devotions, and prayers of those who have recourse to their assistance. Can you imagine? I mean, you die and you're aware of kind of what's happening, like with your kids, and they're just never praying, and you're like. I mean, yeah. That's
World's biggest frustration, I'm sure.
Yeah, that would be. That would be. Wait till you have kids one day, okay? Your parents know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now this whether we ought to call upon the saints to pray for us. I like what he says here. According to Dionysius, the order established by God among things is that the last should be led to God by those that are midway between. Okay, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. So he's saying that God has created this order. All right, it's like when we talked about the angels. You have the seraphim and the cherubim and the thrones, the dominations and virtues and powers and archangels, and everything is very ordered. Yeah. And the lower ones have less intellectual ability than the higher ones, but the higher ones teach the lower ones. It's like we see it in our lives where a child is born and we have to teach them. We send them to school or we homeschool, and so there's this hierarchy. But for some reason, people just can't make that leap of saying the hierarchy includes the angels in heaven, and the saints, and I need to have recourse to them. Again, all right, kind of frustrating. All right, okay. Now here's this next slide here, talking about although the greater saints are more acceptable to God than the lesser, it is sometimes profitable to pray to the lesser for 5 reasons. Okay?
All right, let's hear those reasons.
William already got one of them. Okay, he says first because sometimes one has greater devotion to a lesser saint. for a greater, and the effect of prayer depends very much on one's devotion. Okay, so you figure like, okay, if 40 million people have great devotion to Saint Therese of Lisieux, okay, not that she like can't handle it, but then maybe not as many have a devotion to this particular lesser known saint, but the great devotion that you have is efficacious. You know, I don't know. It's not like they would have a popularity contest up there. It's like nobody prayed to me today.
But I think it has a lot to do with us, which I think is kind of what St. Thomas is getting at, is it's our devotion to it too.
But you could have a really, really good devotion to a popular saint. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe
it's a mixture of you having a really strong devotion and them not having as many people praying.
I'll give an example, and maybe this is not a great one. But my daughter went to a concert a couple weeks ago, and it's of an artist that I asked a whole bunch of people if they've ever heard of this guy, and
it's a very niche artist.
And most people say no, I never heard of him. But it almost makes her more devoted to this guy, because it's kind of like
your little secret.
Yeah, her little guy. I mean, her. Yeah. you know what I mean? It's
this is a little bit odd, but yes, I understand
but
what.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
if I had the saint that I'm really devoted to that you guys have never even heard of, I would have more eagerness to tell you about him, because I'm not going to have to like say, oh, his name is Saint Francis of Assisi. You ever
Everyone's
heard of him?
like,
yeah, like
that
yeah,
guy.
okay, yeah.
Sorry, Saint Francis. We're not saying that you're not.
But you know what I mean? So I think there's some merit to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Secondly, in order to avoid tediousness, for continual attention to one thing makes a person wary, whereas by praying to different saints, the fervor of our devotion is aroused anew, as it were. Okay, so if and I'm probably guilty of that, because I focus so much attention on one saint, and people
kind of get stuck in that, like just
yeah. And Aquinas is like, dude, find somebody else. I mean, thirdly, because it is granted to some saints to exercise their patronage in certain special cases. For instance, to St. Anthony against the fire of hell. Now, he's not talking about St. Anthony of Padua here. You know why?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, because St. Thomas Aquinas came before St.
Right.
I think St.
That
Thomas
would be
was
quite trippy if he was talking about St. Anthony.
Wasn't St. Anthony like 1300s and St. Thomas was like 1200s or something like that?
Yeah, I wish. Can somebody do a fact check on that out there?
All right, I'll pull up the Google.
This has got it.
Yeah, okay. You're thinking St. Anthony of Padua was 13th century? No, Aquinas
1300s.
Okay, so about 100 years later.
Yeah.
I'm guessing a little bit later. Like I'm thinking more like 1500s.
Okay.
Like maybe post-Reformation, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Wait. You're saying St. Anthony of Padua?
No, he's the one that we pray to for lost things.
Yes.
He's the name that the saint.
You're saying that you think that St. Anthony came after Aquinas?
St. Thomas Aquinas, yes.
Not according to my internet search. He came before.
Really?
He's 1195 to 1231, and St. Thomas was 1225.
Well, he would have been. When did he get canonized, though? Because
he wouldn't have been known necessarily per se.
So I don't think Aquinas isn't talking about St. Anthony of Padua. But to your point, he did predate him. I guess I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I thought he was much later.
Yeah, I thought those dates you mentioned would be like
he became a saint in 1232.
1232, okay.
Which would have actually been in his Aquinas' lifetime.
Aquinas would have been less than 10 years old. And I'm sure he would have known about this. So, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe he's talking about... I wonder if St. Anthony... But there also was St. Anthony of the Desert.
Right, yeah.
Right, a desert monk.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that... but then again, when somebody is canonized, like... Aquinas is 10 years old, and all of a sudden the St. Anthony of Padua is canonized. It might have been top of mind for him,
Right.
Is that Anthony the Great?
No. I don't think so.
No, sorry. St. Anthony
You said St. Anthony of the Desert
I'm
was
looking
probably
at
who he's
the Desert Father. I think there was a St. Anthony. Anybody out there know about this?
Any other St. Anthonys that we're forgetting?
And this St. Anthony would be like when? Like 400s? Like early on?
Yeah. I think like maybe 300s, 400s, something like that. I don't know when the desert monks,
I'd say probably pretty early.
Well,
okay. Fourthly, that due honor be given to us by us to all. And fifthly, because the prayers of several sometimes obtain that which would not have been obtained by the prayers of only one. Okay, so again, pray to a lot of saints. Don't limit it to just one saint.
Yeah.
I always wonder, like, because sometimes in the Summa, Aquinas talks about the doctors. And I always wonder, like, do you think he knew that he was going to get canonized.
He was going to be a doctor.
That he would be a doctor one day.
The doctor of the doctors too.
Yeah, like he's like,
He's
yeah,
like, my people.
yeah, because he says he says at the end of the Summa that the highest level in heaven will be the virgins, the martyrs, and the doctors. Okay, and he I mean, he would have been a virgin.
So if you're married, you've got two options here. You either got to be martyred
right.
or become a doctor of the church.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I think I'm down to one.
Yeah.
I better somebody better kill me. But yeah, so I mean, he wasn't a martyr, but I wonder if anybody's all three of those. What would be an example of somebody that was martyred? They were a doctor of the church, and they're a virgin.
Yeah, I mean, I know
Which one of the doctors
that guy
were
is like
martyred?
at the very top
Which
of
one
heaven.
of them martyred? Oh, sorry, the doctors was martyred.
Yeah,
Were
I
there?
don't know.
How many?
I'm sure there's got to be one out there, but
It
I don't
doesn't
know
seem
of
like
any
it's
of them.
real common.
No,
Like
I don't think so.
but I don't know. I bet you.
Like I know, like Saint Agnes, Saint Lucy, like those were like virgins and martyrs, but they weren't doctors. Like those are like the typical ones.
You guys are going to be happy to know that my trivia questions has to do with the doctors of the church.
Oh, okay.
And y'all don't, do they? Okay.
I don't.
Totally
I
did.
actually have a list of all the doctors of the church right here in my left hand. Okay.
Then I should probably close the thing I just have open right now.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out which ones had been martyred.
Okay, stop that. will ya?
I was before you said it was your trivia.
My trivia is going to be doctor or not a doctor. Okay, so I'm going to give
that'll
you
be fun.
some that are not a doctor, and I'll see if
Cool.
you know the difference. Okay.
Cool.
All right. So finally, and I don't want to ignore everybody out there in social media land. Is there anything else that people are saying that we need to attend
There's
to?
the whole desert, Anthony of the Desert. Both Victor and I are pretty confident that the desert was like really early on, like 250, something
yeah.
like that.
Wow.
So that would have been well prior to St. Thomas Aquinas.
Also, when Christianity was illegal,
Yeah.
because was it the Edict of Milan was like 312, 313?
The
Yeah,
one
something
that,
like that.
Constantine signed.
Yeah.
It's somewhere around there.
Three something. Yeah, I can't remember
right.
it anymore.
So
Gotta
if
go
the
back to my
Desert
history
Fathers
flashcards.
may have been escaping persecution. You go out
from
in
the
desert.
from the Romans. Yeah.
Yeah. So
right.
all right. So
Cool.
anyways,
Do
thanks
y'all
for
have
all
a
the
lesser known saint that you all have a devotion to?
good question.
Does anyone out there? I was interested if anyone watching also has one.
I know that like on CDT, oftentimes they'll have the saint of the day, and if you follow the saints of the day, it's not many days of the year that it's like this really
big ones.
well-known
Yeah.
saints.
Yeah.
So you're going to have these other ones,
Smaller ones.
And I actually have a book that I really highly recommend, and I don't know the title of it. I read it to my son in the
Helpful.
evenings, which is basically saints from around the world, lesser known saints, and there are some fascinating stories.
I bet
Oh,
there
yeah.
are. I bet
Sure.
there are.
I'm sure.
But and they're good for them that they don't care because they're in heaven and they're in their perfect bliss, and there's not they would never be like, gosh, nobody prayed to me today, gosh, and
So yeah, if it was like a human thing, we'd be like.
and then Saint Anthony's over there in the corner like, well,
He's like, can't relate.
yeah, I can't talk to you right now. I got 18,000.
Although I love this poor man, he did so much in his life, and we're like, where's my keys?
yeah.
All the time. And he's like, well,
I know it's a pity. Okay, so
but-
all right, last slide. Whether the prayers which the saints pour forth to God for us are always granted. I'm just going to summarize this. It basically this is an interesting thing because it talks about the saints' will being conformed to God, which of course we know that it will be. So if I were to pray, like, hey, Saint Anthony, well, whatever, Saint Francis, I want to get a Lamborghini, and God was like, yeah, that wouldn't be good for you. It just
he's like, I've seen your driving.
it just adds stress, and so so basically what he's saying is that the saint is going to always conform his will to God's, and so if it's not something that is of the God's will, then it's not going to be granted, right? But an interesting thing, if you look at the bottom of this slide here, like the last few lines, let me just read. And what God wills is always fulfilled, unless we speak of his antecedent will, whereby he wishes all men to be saved. Okay, so he's using this example. Now, this is the big controversy, with
Dare we hope? Yeah.
Dare we hope all men are saved? Okay, people have attributed that to Bishop Barron, and there was one of the fathers from Vatican II, Van Balthasar, I think it was, who said,
Fantastic name, by the way.
I'm sorry.
Fantastic name, by the way.
Yeah, very good name. So this whole thing, dare we hope all men are saved, and Aquinas is basically addressing this here, is saying that is God's antecedent will. Yeah, he would love for all men to be saved. But then he says, for this will is not always fulfilled. Wherefore, no wonder if that also which the saints will according to this kind of will be not fulfilled sometimes. Okay, so we're not going to get everything we want from the saints, right? So because it may not be in accord with God's perfect will, right? Okay, all right. So that's that. And but I think the bottom line is there needs to be a bigger effort to teach this. I don't remember in Catholic schools, again, this may be my bad memory rather than them not doing it, but really this being pounded in us about, the saints. And like this time of year at a Catholic school, you should just be like hammering it. They're probably having, dress up parties and all that kind of stuff. But I would spend a whole week talking about the intercession of the saints.
Yeah, it's important.
I think so.
It's important, yeah.
Absolutely. For all those Catholic schools listening.
Well, you never know.
You never know.
You never know. Maybe some superintendents of Catholic schools are listening right now and changing their curriculum as we speak. All right. So before we mosey into our next phase, any final comments about the intercession of the saints or anything we need to read from our friends out there?
I think we're caught up on comments here.
All right. Okay. So I think I'm going to yield
all right. Does that mean
to the speaker
that I'm waiting? It's that time of the show where we give Dave Summa to think about.
And he gives it right back.
Thank you. I forgot. I was like, I forgot to remind you to do that.
I wasn't sure
if we have a graphic that we're supposed to put up or something?
Do we have the graphic?
I forgot about
Put the graphic up briefly so everyone can enjoy and appreciate the
Okay.
graphic for a moment.
All right. A moment of silence while we find the graphic. Okay.
There we go. Should be up.
All right. Graphic. There's always a little delay with the social media feed, so everybody be patient with us.
Okay, there we go. It's been up. We can put it down.
All right. So I'll give Dave too much to think about. I like that.
Spoiler, he gives it right back in the corner. Spent a lot of time on this note.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right. So last I heard from William is that he didn't have something, but he kind of did. But he was going to make something up.
Did a Google search.
Falling into the pits and traps of previous interns whose name will not be mentioned. Okay, so all right. Well, hit us with it.
I've got a couple just because I did a quick Google search on saints. So first question probably won't be too hard, but
I like those kind.
Wait, did you put it back to off of the graphic?
Yeah,
I think we might still be on the graphic.
No, I did not.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There we go.
We're much more better than the graphic. People deserve to see us.
I had someone message me asking if I had a hat. I do have a hat. This is not how you're supposed to wear the hat, but it is here.
Stalker.
It's not a great hat.
All right, so hit us with the easy one.
Yeah, all right. So my first easy one would be, how many saints does the Roman Catholic Church recognize?
Oh my God.
That's easy? How many?
Should be.
Isn't it like...
There's a lot.
There's
I'll
a
give
lot.
you a hint.
It's a lot, but I don't remember how much.
I'm going to say...
I'll just say whoever is closer.
Oh my
I'm
God.
going to say 6,000.
I was going to say like 3,000, so I'll say 3,000 because maybe somewhere in there we're right.
There are more than 10,000.
Oh, yes. Take that.
Oops,
more than 10,000 saints recognized by the Roman Catholic Church.
But you figure in heaven, there's probably like billions.
Oh yeah, more than probably can't count them.
Yeah. So
yeah.
10,000.
Yeah.
So there's been 10,000 canonization ceremonies or thereabouts.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some of them were just like by edict. They didn't have a ceremony.
Yeah,
just
maybe.
Like, okay, he's a saint, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Oh my gosh, my dad just texted, "Where's my hat?" It's like, where's my... it exists. It just doesn't look good.
Is he watching?
Yes, I'll wear the hat for the rest of the show.
Oh, I thought he was home and he
is watching.
Looking for his deerstalker hat and he's going to go out and do some
my dad wears this every Friday himself, personally.
Okay.
All right, I have two other random saint questions. So, who was the last saint martyr that was canonized?
Oh, good
last
question.
Martyr.
He's a martyr, yeah.
And he was canonized.
Oscar
Romero.
Oh,
yes, that's
good.
correct.
Oh, that was good.
Yep.
Oscar Romero. All right. Shoots, he scores.
Yeah.
And that's 2 for me and 0 for Sisso if you're keeping score at home.
Yeah.
My dad's watching. Don't embarrass me.
I know. Chuck, you should have done better in educating this young lady, okay?
By the way, Victor says he's closer because he guessed 2 million. He just went earlier.
2 million? No, that's...
All right, so last question I have is who... Okay, and this should probably be pretty easy, but who is the saint that protects you?
Oh, St. Michael?
Nope.
Oh, St. Christopher.
Yes.
Yes.
All
Got a
right.
point.
Yep.
She's
There you go.
Okay.
So I had three.
But there are some questions about whether St. Christopher is an actual saint, right? Did they take him out of the registry of saints? There was some controversy a while back. Like,
I didn't know about that.
Did he actually exist?
Oh, because I always ask for his intercession when I go on road trips.
Just to be safe, let's take her point away. Okay.
I got it right.
I'm kidding. Okay. All right. So now we move over to Cecile.
All right. Yes. So I obviously went with the saint theme. Also, by the way, thanks to Mario, our fellow employee who is roasting me about my hat. I appreciate it.
He doesn't like it?
I told him that it wasn't a great look on me, and he says, yeah, you're right.
Oh, wow. He apparently he's not into white lies.
Yeah, see, no. Well, St. Thomas would appreciate that.
That's
I'm sure.
right, because then he would have sinned.
Exactly. All right, so I just got 10 questions about various saints, so some things to do with who they're patrons of and things like that. Some of them are multiple choice, some of them are not. If you happen to know the answer before I get to the multiple choice part, feel free to shout it out, because some of them you might know instantly. I don't know. Some people, you either know it or you don't with saints.
Yeah, right.
So, okay. Which one? Well, I'm going to say, do you know a female who is a patron saint of one of the patron saints of Italy?
Catherine of Siena.
Oh, good job. See, I didn't have to read out the answers. Good job, Dave. That's a point for Dave.
All right.
I'll applaud for you.
You're counting at home. Okay.
Here you go.
Diane's holding back the applause.
She's being very sparing with it. She doesn't want us to become snowflakes over here.
Okay.
All right. Okay, again, shout out the answer as soon as you know it. This patron saint was a wonderful musician, but sadly met her demise in 280 AD
Saint
when
Cecilia.
she was.
all right.
Good job.
Look at.
I like how they worded this question, by the way, when she was violently stabbed through the neck.
Oh, wow.
Who is and she's the patron saint of singers and poets as well.
Yep.
Okay, Cecilia. Good job.
All right.
Good job.
I would just like to say, I did not author these questions entirely. Some of them I did, and some of them I took from a quiz. And I like the way that they worded these. Old MacDonald had some chicks, and the chicks laid eggs like bricks. Which female saint of Ireland may make...
Bridget.
Good jobs.
All right.
Saint Bridget of Kildare. And then Saint Thomas Aquinas.
Oh, I've heard of him.
Have you?
Yes.
Okay. A major theologian who is known as the dumb ox, and yet he was a very learned man and even a doctor of the church. He is the patron of whom?
Educators, schools, people.
Come on, William,
struck by lightning.
Jump on the
Schoolboys.
You're close, sir.
Students.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
I feel like William could kind of get half a point for that one. He gets half a point for that one.
Don't take sympathy points, William. You're too good for that.
Schoolboys and students are
This is
practically
one
the same thing.
all thanks to a gentleman at my parish, because I walked by his trunk during our trunk or treat, and he literally was just holding a golf club. And I said, "Who on earth are you supposed to be?" And he said, "Who is the patron saint?" Yeah, who's the patron saint of golf?
Saint Jack Nicholas. No, I'm kidding. Do you know who Jack Nicholas is?
Not at all.
You never heard of him?
I don't know.
Okay, he's a very, very famous golfer. Like before Tiger.
Victor's been doing well, by the way.
Before Tiger Woods, Jack Nicholas was the GOAT.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, any other guesses?
Saint. For some reason, I think when you say it, it's going to come to me.
Well, when was the sport of golf invented? That's
okay. So it has. It doesn't necessarily have to do with that per se. The reason why he is, by the way, it's a he. It's one of the apostles.
Oh, that narrows the field.
You mean one of the 12?
Was he previously the patron saint of croquet?
I have no idea.
Because I think croquet probably. Okay, I'm going to say Saint Philip.
Saint Jude?
Saint Matthew?
I'm starting to question if it was one of the apostles or
Saint
Matthias.
Nathaniel.
No, it's Saint Andrew.
He's an apostle.
Yeah, he's an apostle. Yeah, but something was like, wait.
Peter's
brother.
Peter's brother.
Oh, that's why in one of the big golf the majors.
Yes, because of the town of St. Andrews, it's the birthplace of golf.
Oh,
that's why.
It's the British Open, isn't it called the St. Andrews or something?
Mary got it, St. Andrew. Good job.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Good job, Mary.
And they sometimes play the British Open in Northern Ireland, and I was on that course one time. Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Look at me.
All right. What else? Can we drop anything cooler than that? We can't leave it like that. Okay, this one is a pretty long one. So again, as soon as you know it, just shout it out. This early Christian martyr is known by his full name as well as a nickname. He shares his full name with an eminent Dutch scholar of the Renaissance. He also shares his name with the cute fuzzy red monster from Sesame Street.
Elmo. Is that it? Saint Elmo? Okay.
Saint Erasmus or slash Saint Elmo. That's
okay. Yeah, you had me at cute little fuzzy.
Yeah, that was the really easy part.
Yeah.
All right.
Can you tickle him? What? That Tickle Me Elmo. No, don't you know? Have you never heard of Tickle Me Elmo?
I have, but it's been a while.
But like, that wasn't expecting that to come out of this conversation. Oh dear.
Right.
All right. Okay. Astronomers have this saint for a patron.
Astronomers.
I can start naming some if you can't come up with it.
Okay, yeah. Multiple choice. Okay.
All right. Saint Hedwig, Saint Dominic, Saint Francis Xavier, and Saint Ives. I think that's how you pronounce it.
I'm going to say Saint Francis Xavier.
I'll say Saint Dominic.
Saint Dominic.
Oh, total
All
guess. All right. Was Dominic a Dominican?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. The whole order was named after him.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just double check and make sure I'm catching up with all the comments too. Nope, no one made a guess on that one. Okay. This biblical lady is the patroness of perfume of the perfume trade because of her association with fragrant ointments.
It's St. Mary Magdalene.
Yes, Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, that makes sense because remember she was anointing Jesus with the
So this one is going to be multiple choice because of the way the question is phrased. Which of these saints is not a patron of archers? Apparently, we have 3 patrons of archers.
I can scream out the right answer.
Well, no, it's not.
Yeah, be a lot of people are not. Yeah.
Well, okay. Out of this list,
are not the patron saint of archers?
Yeah, there's apparently more than one patron saint of archers.
Okay, you know who would know this is Joe McClain.
Yes, he's a big archer.
He has like a whole YouTube channel devoted to it.
All right, we got Saint Akka, Saint George, Saint Christopher, Saint Sebastian.
Saint Akka.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
All right, very good. So you weren't even keeping score, were you?
There's one more.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, I don't keep score. My brother always gets mad at me anytime we play any form of sport game. Like, I never keep track of my score on anything, and he's the one who just has to tell me. I'm like, oh, I'm winning. Oh, cool. Like, I'm all about there for the moment.
Score, let's just say I'm winning.
That William won.
Okay.
One last one. Again, first come, first serve here. Saint Blaise is the patron saint of diseases in.
Do you know about that one?
Yeah.
The busting throats. They put that candle on.
Yeah.
Can I do one bonus one that I didn't write down here?
Okay.
Who is the patron saint of firefighters?
Oh gosh, I know.
Gotta know.
As an added bonus, this is also my confirmation saint.
Saint Blaise. Get it? Blaze.
I get it. I'm not acknowledging it.
Okay. Hey, you gotta love it. Okay. Okay.
Yes, I suppose as you are my boss, I do have to love it.
Yeah, you gotta laugh at that one. Okay, so who is it? It's one of the ones like when you say it, be like, oh yeah, of course.
But I don't know. He's probably one of those considered lesser known saints.
I'm waiting. Somebody said Saint Joan of Arc.
Nope. That's a good guess.
That makes sense.
That is a very, very good. Oh, Mario! I knew he was my best friend, Saint Florian. And do you know why? Okay, so he's a lesser known saint, but every single EMT firefighter, their emblem is a Saint Florian cross.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Throwing it out there.
Throw it out there. Okay, so
Taking the hat off.
this game is going to be is this person a doctor of the church or is he not or she not? Okay.
Maybe just doctor or not would.
Okay. Doctor or not a doctor. Okay. So the first one is Saint Anthony of Padua.
Not a doctor.
Not a doctor. I also agree. I don't think he's a doctor.
You're both wrong.
Wait, he is? I'm so sorry,
Yes.
St. Anthony. Please help me find my things still.
You're not going to find anything anymore.
Darn, I don't know why I second guessed that
Okay,
one.
can somebody out there keep score? Maybe Victor. Victor seems to be very tuned in.
I'll try to.
Okay, no, Saint Anthony
is a doctor.
Saint Anthony of Padua is.
Shoot, I don't know why. I knew that, but I don't know
Is
why.
a doctor of the church.
Okay.
See, Victor also said not doctor.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. A lot of people can be wrong at the same time. Okay, all right. So the next one is doctor or not a doctor. Saint John Chrysostom.
Yes, doctor.
Okay.
Doctor.
That didn't take long. Okay, so how about okay, so making sure you guys don't. Okay.
Has no trust.
Saint Francis of Assisi.
Not a doctor.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say not.
Not a doctor. Okay. So you guys are
Oh.
tied right now. So
I know. So do we continue on?
Sure.
I'm gonna say not a doctor as well. I don't think he is.
Okay, you're both right.
Oh,
He's
perfect.
not a doctor.
All right.
Okay. Saint Paul,
Doctor.
the apostle.
Doctor.
Oh, I'm trying to think if I remember if any of the apostles were doctors.
Don't look at your screen.
I'm not.
No,
I'm looking at the
you're
comments.
looking
I'm
at
trying to keep. I'm trying to keep
Yeah,
up
but
with the
that's
comments.
cheating.
No, I'm looking at. I'm making sure I have like my numbers right for this. I'm gonna say no.
Okay, and you said no. Oh, wait.
He said yes.
You
I said
said
yes.
yeah. Okay,
I said
he
no.
is not. In fact, I the earliest.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think any apostles are doctors.
Yeah,
that's what I was
not.
thinking.
They're not. The earliest doctor was born in like the 4th century.
Yeah, and
And
our
there's a
viewers
lot
knew
of
this.
4th century ones, but before that, like
None of them really existed.
Mary is not a doctor of the
Right,
church. I mean, you would think like, come on.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. So Sissel's up by 1 point. Okay, I do like to keep score. Okay, Saint Peter Damian.
Yes,
No.
I have no idea. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, are you saying no?
I say
I'm
no.
saying yes.
Okay, he is.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
he is.
Tied again.
Okay, next one. Saint Anselm of Canterbury.
Yes, I actually no idea. So I
You
literally,
sounded so.
I just
I'm
got
gonna also say yes. Yes.
Ooh.
Okay,
Yes.
So at least
Saint
we'll be-
Anselm of Canterbury, yes, is a doctor of the church. Okay, Saint Patrick.
no.
No. I'm gonna say no.
Although,
Sissel's starting to have some second thoughts.
hold on a second. I'm just thinking about his teachings and like, would that have been considered something enough for him to like
Yeah.
the way he explained things to have been? I'm gonna go no so
Yeah, I'm
that we
gonna say
can keep
no.
the score same.
You want to take any chances?
I was like feeling he
you're
might
up,
be.
You're up by a couple right now.
No,
right?
we're tied actually.
Oh.
So if
Oh,
I
oh, we are?
if we
Oh,
give
you're
the
tied,
same
okay.
answer, it'll stay the same.
Right.
Okay,
Oh,
right.
that's a really good approach.
Thank you.
Then we'll never,
Thank you.
we'll never end.
No, exactly.
You're right. He is not a doctor
Okay.
of the church.
Woo.
Okay.
I was just thinking about how he explained like the Trinity and things like that. That might have been something, but
Yeah.
I could not.
Okay. Let me see. How about
Crowd goes wild. Sorry.
Saint Ephraim the Syrian?
Yes. That just sounds like a doctor's name.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. Yes.
Now
yes.
okay. Okay. So yeah, you're both right. Now you guys, it's kind of like
We're
when you
kinda
play
brilliant.
when you play heads or tails at the end. They'll say, okay, you guys
Exactly,
can't
yeah.
keep, you can't keep doing the same thing because we're never gonna
See,
have a
but that's
winner.
how I lost. No, I'm
Okay.
kidding.
Let's see. Saint Joan of Arc.
No.
I also agree. No, I don't think so.
Okay, she is not.
Okay.
You misogynist.
There's only like 5 female doctors.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's
right.
I know all of them. So they're not. It's not her.
Okay. Saint Gregory of Narek.
Yes.
No.
He's the most recent one, but but nobody's ever heard of him.
Really?
Oh.
I just was totally
Armenia. Yeah, Saint Hildegard of Bingen. You've probably heard of her.
Yeah.
She was the
last.
the second. Well,
So
second,
she's like the most recent
she's
female
the
one.
penultimate. Yeah.
Okay.
You just wanted to say that word.
Saint Gregory of Narek. Oh, why did he not get any attention?
That's so,
Yeah.
when did he become the doctor? a doctor?
Armenian monk and poet, also recognized as a saint in the Armenian Apostolic Church. Okay, so Sissel's up by 1. I'm going to do one more. You might as well disagree with her because otherwise
You can either tie me or well, actually he couldn't tie me. Well, yeah, you could tie me if I'm wrong.
Let's see. We're going to go with Saint Bede the Venerable. Saint Bede the Venerable.
Yes. Why not?
No.
Thought a lot about that one.
He is a doctor.
Woo!
of the
Oh,
church,
all right.
Okay.
Really quick,
English-
did you know who's under consideration for becoming a doctor?
Who?
Saint Faustina.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
St. Faustina. And I've heard also John Paul II
yeah.
would be under consideration. I mean, his body of work was pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
pretty
you know?
extensive.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
So
Isn't Saint Isidore of Seville also?
I'll run. There's like 36 of them. I'll run through them real quickly. Okay. Saint Ambrose, Saint Augustine of Hippo, Saint Jerome, Saint Gregory the Great, Saint Athanasius, Saint John Chrysostom, Saint Basil the Great, Saint Gregory of Nazianzus, Saint Thomas Aquinas, Saint Bonaventure, Saint Anselm of Canterbury, Saint Isidore of Seville, Saint Peter Chrysologus, Saint Leo I, Saint Peter Damian, Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, Saint Hilary of Poitiers, Saint Alphonsus Liguori, Saint Francis de Sales, Saint Cyril of Alexandria, Saint Cyril of Jerusalem, Saint John Damascene, Saint Bede the Venerable, Saint Ephraim the Syrian, Saint Peter Canisius, Saint John of the Cross, Saint Robert Bellarmine, Saint Albert the Great, Saint Anthony of Padua, Saint Lawrence of Brindisi, Saint Teresa of Avila, Saint Catherine of Siena, Saint Therese of Lisieux, Saint John of Avila, St. Hildegard of Bingen, and St. Gregory of Narek, who nobody has heard of. All right.
And how many were those?
36.
36.
And is it 5 or 6?
I think it's 5.
5, okay.
Yeah, but.
All right, ladies, let's go.
Yeah, you guys
let's represent a little bit better.
Work a little bit harder, okay? But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 of the last 6 have been females. Okay, so you guys are, coming on,
We're coming up. Don't worry. Give us a few years.
Up and comers, yeah.
We'll get there.
All right. Well, good program. Thanks, everybody, for your participation and for being with us. And God willing, we'll be back next week, and we won't be talking about Halloween, I promise, okay? Because it'll be past Halloween. All right. God bless you. Have a good week.
Thanks for joining us for Back to the Father. And don't forget, the glory of God is the human person fully alive. If you have comments about the show, email Dave Palmer at grnonline.com.
Interview with us, Oscar Ortiz, the principal. Please go reach out to me. My email is davepalmer@grnonline.com. God bless you. Have a great rest of your weekend.